Alright, hello everyone, it's me again, back with the Mosin Nagant M44. As you can see, it no longer has the brass stacker sight on it, the mount on it, anyways, and I'll explain to you why. Okay. Alright, let's start with the most obvious problem. The main problem is right here. Now, they give you this because, obviously, the Mosin Nagant was produced in a bunch of different countries over a bunch of different years and to varying specifications. Now, that's obvious enough. But the real problem comes in, I'll show you. This little washer, not like it really matters, I'm not putting it back on anyways. Okay, this is the bolt that they give you. That's the bolt. When you compare the bolt to the size of the hole, there you go. Okay, so there's like that much room for this to move around. That's the first issue. Okay, all of that moving around. As you can see, this surface is smooth. The outside surface is smooth. The washer that makes contact with the outside surface on both sides is also smooth. This wasn't so much of a problem. It wasn't an issue with it going like this. It was an issue with it teeter-tottering on this rear piece. Now, as you know, if you have one or if you've ever shot one, a Mosin Nagant has a lot of recoil. Like, it'll wallop you if you're not holding it right. If you don't know what you're doing, or you've never shot one before, and somebody just hands it to you and says, "Here you go, shoot it, have fun," you're gonna end up sore because you probably don't know how to shoot a gun that has that much recoil. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Not knowing is not knowing. They know that this mount is going on a gun that has a ton of recoil, and it's designed in such a fashion that allows this bolt that much room to travel in. That's not good. Oh, and how I mentioned this is smooth and that's smooth and those are smooth. Well, when you come over, you look, guess what? Big surprise. Those are smooth too. Now, I made the video about removing this rear sight pin and how much of a pain in the ass it was. And obviously you can't see it because the thing is in the way. That's the little indent I made in the end of the pin. I'm getting a new pin with it flush to the other side. You can't tell that there was ever anything wrong with it or anything that I did to it, so I'm just going to replace that rear pin. And I actually just ordered the Bad Ace mount, which doesn't have this problem. It goes through the sight pin in the front with one hole that's this size. One hole. So there's no wiggle room like there is on this. And actually, when I get it on Tuesday, I just ordered it today. When I get it on Tuesday, I'll be reposting with this mount, and again explaining why this won't work, and showing you the installation process for the Bad Ace rail mount system for that gun, the M44 Mosin Nagant. And they even put up their own video explaining how to do it, and the video is like 2 minutes long. It's so simple. It's like 3 pieces. It's a piece that goes into the existing sight block with a pin through it, and then a nut that sits underneath in the undercut spring channel. So when you lift up that rear sight, you flip up the sight, there's a little spring in there. Well, when you take that sight out, the spring, you can slide it out, or sometimes you have to take a little punch and hammer it back to get it out from the undercut. And then there's a nut that sits underneath there with a hole in it that the rail actually set screws down and on. Now this the company gives you a 30-day return policy on it, and they say, okay, well, you know, you have 30 days and you have to return it in, or whatever it says, resellable condition, and beyond that there's nothing else. Well, this wasn't really sellable in the first place. And obviously, having installed and uninstalled it, you can see everything is covered in Loctite, you know, and this is bent and heated up and has scratches on it, and the key is, you know, has dings up on it, and this whole thing was actually bent right out of the package, because when I installed it, if you look down it, there you can see it's nice and pointed off to that side, to one side, this way. Even though the arms are straight, the whole rail is kicked off this way, and you know, it was kind of $70 wasted. About the only thing that this will be good for is I'm going to take this bolt that they give you, and instead of using the front sight pin that the Bat Ace recommends that you use the front sight pin that comes with, you know, in the Mosin's front, the flip up sight, the front of it. Save yourself the trouble. Don't pay $70 for this. Save up the extra $30. Buy the Bat Ace mount. I'm doing a video when I get it on installing it, and then I'm going to do another video after I install it. I'm going to be going down to the range with my scope, which, again, UTG AccuShot. You know, I got it in, and as you can see, you know, the scope dwarfs the mount, but there's no good reason why it shouldn't work. You know, it's a long eye relief scout scope. It's what it's meant to do. This is meant to be a scope mount, and these were tightened down to the exact specifications that it said in the paperwork. We installed it the way it said, and you know, it just failed. It didn't work. That nice big channel in the front there allows it to teeter-totter up and down. I mean, I had it set in place at the range. I had this pointed at a target. The first shot actually hit the target. It hit the paper. Alright? And that's where I was aiming. I hit the paper. I mean, it wasn't perfect, obviously. This has to be zeroed. Everything is still set to factory settings, but it landed on the paper, if not the very far left-hand edge, because this is kicked off to the right. I was actually hitting the far left-hand side of the target, and it was probably a man-sized target. You know, I was aiming basically, you know, whatever. But, you know, at the same time, this just didn't work. It's got a built-in design flaw. That nice big channel. And this nice big channel. And it's as simple as that. When I get the Bat Ace mount, I'll be doing a video on installing it onto my Mosin Nagant. And just real quick, I'm standing right here. This is the flip-up sight. That's the spring. When you take this out, that little hole is very handy for punching this spring out. Obviously, you have to take the flip-out sight off because otherwise it won't come out. This is a separate piece that comes off. The pin goes through. This comes out when you can hammer it with a little punch this way, that direction, and then this piece is undercut to fit that spring. The nut goes in there, set screws down and in, and the second one goes, the front of it goes through here, and then there's a round part that sits on top of the receiver right here with a Picatinny rail that mounts on with, I think it's either 4 or 5 screws. It's meant to go this way and have a bent bolt, but they say if you want to use a long eye relief or you want to keep your straight bolt, you can actually turn the mount, the Picatinny rail part of it, by removing these 4 or 5 screws and flip it 180 degrees. Now I will go over that. When I install mine, I'll install it the way it is meant to be, where the Picatinny rail comes this way. I won't pre-do it. But then once that's done, I'm taking out those screws, flipping it around, putting them back in, Loctiting it all down or whatever, you know, obviously, and then I will post it. And then what I'll do is when I go out to the range, I'll be posting video of that as well. And letting you guys know whether or not the Bad Ace mount is worth, you know, the $120. And to be honest with you, I think it will be, because it's a far superior design than this. It's a far superior mounting system than this, and it's a far superior quality than this. I mean, this is just, I mean, literally, this looks like it is actually just stamped out of sheet metal. The only thing actually legit about this is the rail itself. The rail is harder than the arms. The arms are soft. You know, if this whole thing was hardened, maybe it wouldn't have had the issue of it being kicked off to the side. Oh, yeah, right there, you can see it. I mean, you can see clearly there's a huge difference on one side from the other, and I'm holding it square in line with the camera, you know? And even when you do that, you can still kind of see. But it is what it is, and I'll be sure to, you know, upload a video regarding the installation of the Bad Ace mount. Save yourself the money, buy the Bad Ace mount. It's that simple.